So let's move on to Chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Michael McCaul, who joins me. Nice to see you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Nice to see you, sir.
It's good to see you again.
How many times should I say that to you?
Redundant.
All right, good. We got that. All right, let me talk about Ukraine. What are we going to do about Ukraine?
I think your question is, what is the end game here? When the president says as long as it takes, it really shouldn't take that long. If we gave them everything they needed in this counteroffensive, they could be successful in pushing the Russian occupation out, having a ceasefire, and then a negotiated settlement. With respect to NATO, though, it's way premature to be talking about admission of Ukraine into NATO. As you pointed out, Article 5 would be invoked of the United Nations, and it would put us at automatic war with Russia. That's something nobody wants. And it's unfortunate the president decides to skip out. He's a leader of the free world. Only 11 of the 31 NATO countries are paying 2% of the GDP. That's something that President Trump was very effective in signaling to NATO. Now, we'll say the ascension of Sweden and Finland into NATO, I've never seen NATO as strong now today as it is. And I think Putin, this has backfired. That was not his plan. He wanted to divide and weaken NATO. Now it's very strong.
Well, you talk about, you've never seen NATO stronger, but it has caught my attention that we're sending these cluster munitions to Ukraine, which I don't understand. It's not my decisions, but more than 120 countries have banned the use of cluster munitions, except Russia, Ukraine, and the United States. And our NATO allies, including countries like Italy, Germany, UK, France, they're opposed to this. Mm-hmm. And so, how strong is an alliance where we're sending such a dangerous weapon with such incredible consequences now and well into the future if our allies are looking the other way and saying, "Don't send them," essentially?
Well, and also, I met the Secretary of Defense of the UK, Ben Wallace. He's sending the longer-range artillery that this administration will not send in. They can hit the drones in Crimea, the Iranian drones. The cluster munitions, it is controversial. I'll give you that. But the Russians are using them in Ukraine with great effect. And so the Ukrainians are saying, look, we're not going to use these in Russia, but we want to use them against the Russians in our own country, in Ukraine.
So they're going to mine their own country for future generations.
In their own country, and it is their sovereignty. I will tell you, though, they need a game-changing event, and I think this and the fact that F-16s, I don't think Biden wanted to send F-16s, and I think he was pressured to allow other nations to put their F-16s in. The combination of those two could be very powerful and a game-changer.
I don't understand why. If F-16s would make the difference, and if we dragged our feet, and I'm not a military, I'm not the Defense Department, obviously, why we waited so long and instead would send these other cluster munitions instead, which, that's what I don't understand. Why didn't we send the F-16s sooner if they're so effective, and instead we're going to send these weapons that are banned in most countries?
And this is my criticism with the administration all along. General Jack Keane and I agree that they've slow-walked this so poorly. First it was, the Stingers and the Javelins and the HIMARS, and they just do it so slowly. They give them enough to survive, but not for victory. I think, if anything, the Ukrainians have demonstrated a will to win, a will to fight, and I think we should give them, what they need to win. Russia, an interesting commentary, has gone from the second largest military in the world that we thought to now the second largest military in Ukraine.
Let me ask you, NBC broke a story the other day that said that former U.S. government officials met in New York, and I think one even went to Russia to meet with some Russian officials. These are former, not current, but former, in sort of a back-channel negotiation. But Ukraine wasn't part of that negotiation. And I think Ukraine's upset about it because any resolution has to include them. Why are we using former government people? I know that Jimmy Carter went to North Korea. We've done things like that. But to try to negotiate this?
I think that's dangerous because at the end of the day, it's the Ukrainian people and Zelensky that have to make this decision about their own sovereign territory. And to exclude them, I don't think that's the right way to proceed. I do think the administration is protecting Crimea from the Ukrainians because they want that as a leveraging chit, if you will, on the negotiation table. And I think that's a mistake. They should give them the long-range artillery to Crimea. If the Ukrainians are successful in separating, going through the land bridge of Donbass to Crimea and cutting it in half, stopping the supply chain, then I think they're on the road to victory. And then we can have a negotiated settlement. But any discussion of NATO at this point in time is way premature.
It's actually sort of terrifying, even worse than that. With Russia, while the war is going on. Chairman Michael McCaul, thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.